What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to the Zapata Brand podcast, the Boxing and Bagels edition, as we do every Sunday. And well, we wanted it. We wanted it for so long, these boxing fans. We wanted a good fight, and we got one last night. And that's why I had to get my man, Big P, Percy Crawford from the VIP Crew YouTube channel to join me today. Percy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, brother. It is. Look, anytime we get the kind of boxing we got, it's a good morning.
Oh, it certainly is. It wasn't a good morning a couple weeks ago for you, where the snow kind of piled up there in Louisiana.
Yeah. Look, I enjoyed it for a day, and then I was ready for it to be gone. So we had our fun in it. We played in it, but yeah, after a day or two, I was ready for it to be over with.
And it was kind of touch and go here. We had a lot, but not as much, not as much as we expected. But thank God. I mean, it was holy cow. Did we expect something different? And you, well, how did you deal with that, by the way?
Well, everything's shut down here when it snows, so it's not, you don't have to be out and about it. We went out and played in it and then came inside was basically it. The roads are closed for the most part. Schools are closed. So it's a big deal down here because we don't get it often, but it's not a big deal in terms of dealing with the conditions because they pretty much tell your ass to stay home.
Well,
I don't know how y'all deal with it so much, man. I'll be honest with you.
Actually,
I was over it.
Yeah, we're pretty used to it. Well, we haven't had a big snow like that in a while. Matter of fact, just yesterday, this big attraction up here, it's like a toboggan thing, just finally opened up for the first time in 6 years or so. We had like -8, -6, -5, and for a stretch there, it was that finally that deep freeze came and you're able to go down and go across the lake. But they haven't done it in years and finally got it. But we're kind of used to it. You know what I would think? I would think people who were in hot weather would get tired of the hot weather, so they would come. So every now and then it'd be good, but then they would get rid. I mean, I like the seasons.
I literally just had that conversation. It's like when I heard -6, it's like, how do they deal with that? But I think it's the same when people see we're at 110 with our crazy humidity and all the things that come along with our heat. So I get it, but I don't want that snow, brother.
Yeah, you got that crazy heat. Well, last night there was some heat in that T-Mobile Arena there. David Benavidez versus David Morrell. We talked a little bit about this. We were excited for it. We knew that it was going to be this kind of a fight. You and I had the same type of prediction, although you didn't say knockout. I did. What was your takeaway from the fight, and what'd you think about it?
Well, I'll start. I gotta give you props, man. You say you know how your predictions going. You got one right. So
yes, got one.
Put a tick mark for 2025.
Yeah, I'm off to a great start.
Great start, man. And boxing is off to a great start. I think we needed that type of start. I think we needed that type of start to happen in the States. So I think it was amazing to have that kind of show in the States. I thought Benavidez was everything we thought it can be. I thought Benavidez strength. I just felt like he was the better in the debuting at 175. I thought Morrell had some flaws in his debut at 75. So I kind of made my prediction based on that. I saw both of those guys make their debut at light heavyweight. I thought Benavidez was good, not great. I think we discussed that. I thought Morrell was in a little more of a dogfight than I expected. So I was just kind of going on carryover. I knew Morrell would be tough. I knew Morrell wouldn't go anywhere. I just thought he would be overwhelmed. And at times, that's what it looked like to me. Even when he was covering up and kind of playing chicken, some of that shit was getting through, and you could tell it was hurting.
A couple things. The first 3 or 4 rounds, especially the fourth, the end of the fourth, Benavidez got hit, and he buckled. He 100% buckled. And I think he was kind of lucky he was at the end of the round. Morrell isn't your typical Ugas, Rigondeaux type of Cuban fighter. He was swinging. He was swinging. The problem I had, Morrell was backed up too much. He was doing real well. His feet looked great in the first 3 to 4 rounds. And then he went into this mode where his hands were up here, and even Benavidez would slap down that left hand, and he'd come right in with the right hand. He had no answer. And he even punched his right hand away and hit a left uppercut. It was a beautiful move he did. Why would someone who has such a good boxing pedigree resort to that? I mean, that kind of lands in the lap of Ronnie Shields and Santos.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that, too, is if you look at the size discrepancy on fight night, I think he kind of felt Benavidez's weight and didn't want to deal with that all day. So his safe place, I guess you could say, was just to kind of corner himself against the ropes, play defense, cover up. But uppercuts were getting through. Like you say, Benavidez was slapping and the guard down and punching. Benavidez is a lot more craftier than I think we give him credit for. I personally would love to see Morrell go back to 68. I think at 68, he may be unbeatable. I mean, the shots he took last night, the shots he delivered, like you say, he buckled Benavidez. It was after the bell, but he hurt Benavidez bad when he hit him with that shot after the bell.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously Benavidez's guard was down and he was relaxed, but that shot hurt him bad. So he can crack, he can take a good shot. I think both of those guys took something from each other last night. So if there's a lot left in the tank, if Morrell can go back to 68, I think he's unbeatable. I just saw Benavidez's size and imposing will kind of wearing him down a little bit, and I think that's why his safe haven was the back against the ropes, so he wouldn't have to use his legs.
What did you think about that point getting taken away? Not that it mattered. Didn't matter at the end of the day.
No, I was okay with it only because to me it was blatant, and I saw what happened. Benavidez hit him right at the bell, and that was his get back. The only problem is it was well after the bell. So if it's a blatant foul, I don't mind the point deduction with no warning, and I think it was blatant. I think he was trying to get his get back, and it's a fight, man. It wasn't, they're fighting there and there. It was a heated from go with these two guys. Luckily and thankfully, they showed a lot of sportsmanship afterwards, but it was a heated rivalry. It was a heated fight. I get it. He was caught in his emotions, and I think listening to Ronnie Shields say, man, you got to be smart. That made me okay with the deduction because Ronnie Shields knew.
Yeah, but if it was a closer fight, let's say it was a point or two, I don't know. I think you got to give him well, he did hurt him. Then again, I got to take that back. He did hurt him, but you got to give him a chance there. I mean, he hit him right at the bell. Kind of, I mean, take a point away that close. The fight was he had blown him away at that point, but that could have been a very different change because he knocked him down. Well, it wasn't really a knockdown either. If you saw it, he hit him like kind of the back. It wasn't even not. Hit him like the back of the head with his wrist. It wasn't even a knockdown, really. It was a bullshit knockdown. But either way, with that fight, I don't know if Morrell can go down. Okay, but I will say this. If Benavidez is at 175, I think he's got an easier chance beating Beterbiev than Bivol. Only because I think Beterbiev is getting a little long in the tooth. I don't think he beats Bivol. I don't know how many of these fights Benavidez can be in at that weight. What do you think? Yeah,
I agree. I think the more, and it sounds crazy to say this, knowing who Beterbiev is, but the more tailor-made guy for David Benavidez is Beterbiev. So Bivol is a little trickier for Benavidez. So I would lean towards that. And he's 40. Beterbiev is 40. But you're right. Benavidez has been in some tricky, tough fights, man. And even his fight with Nail wasn't an easy fight. At his debut at 175, at times he made it look easy, but it wasn't an easy fight. Last night certainly wasn't an easy fight. If you looked at the post-fight press conference, man, he was lumped up. He felt that fight, and he kept expressing how he knew it was going to be a tough fight. So, man, I don't know. 75 is heating up, but I agree with you. Unless Arthur can do something amazing against Bivol and somehow still lose, and take something from him, man, that movement, that in and out, that could be tricky for David Benavidez.
And he punches hard at 75, Bivol. Benavidez's thing was Benavidez, as you saw him, once he gets that engine going, he's nonstop volume. Now, you do have to worry about the stuff coming back, but you can get countered pretty quickly. And with a guy like Bivol, or let alone Beterbiev, the way he punches, I don't know if he's going to have enough. I have a funny feeling Beterbiev's on his downslope for some reason. The injuries and stuff, I didn't like the way he looked last fight. All it takes is one of those fights. But Benavidez was lumped up. You were right. Those fights take a ton out of you. And then you're moving up in weight. It's a bad omen there for him. I give him credit if he's taking the fight. Give him credit for that, because I'm at a point now where I think Canelo just didn't want to fight him. Just point blank said, you know what? I don't need that. The guy's a big guy. He had to weigh close to 190 last night. Had to.
Easily.
He was huge. And Morrell was tight, though, at 175. He was tight. He looked pretty good. It'd be hard for him to get down. But remember, Benavidez was coming down from 200 pounds, coming all the way down. So he fought down to 68.
Mhm.
Do you ever think we see the Canelo fight at all?
No, and I think David Benavidez has wrapped his mind around that. I think he's moved on, and rightfully so. I don't like seeing fighters hold their career up waiting on a guy. He made it clear he'll never fight at 68 again. I don't know if Canelo's chomping at the bit to fight at 75 again. Move past each other, man. There's other things to do, and quite honestly, Canelo's on his way out. I mean, we made 2025 may be the last year we see Canelo. So if
Yeah,
you look at it,
go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I think that is something that we have to kind of look forward to towards the end there, because why else would he sign to fight a Terrence Crawford? Well, supposedly he signed already. Just something like that. When you have this fight right in front of you that you could easily take.
I don't think he's fighting Benavidez. And honestly, I don't think the Benavidez Bivol winner will be next for Benavidez, at least if I'm advising Benavidez.
Oh, really?
Those back-to-back rough fights, man, you got to take those voluntaries. You got to take those, foreign mandatories and things like that, because that stretch can be brutal. And I don't know, man. It takes a lot out of you. I think we'll get a voluntary defense maybe later this year. And these guys fight, so, I mean, it's not like we're getting 2 or 3 fights a year from these guys. We may not see Benavidez again in 25 the way these guys fight now. So
Yeah.
I think he'll take a voluntary defense, and then the mandatory Bivol better be a winner. But and I'm not mad at that. I know the toll these fights take on these guys. I think Morrell's going to be on the show for a while. That was a brutal fight, man. That was a Hagler Mugabe kind of fight. If you really know what you're looking at, they was doing some damage in there, bro.
And even the way Benavidez was going to the body, just tearing it apart and really dipping in and turning his hips into it. But Morrell did not go to the body much, which I don't know why he didn't. He was open for the body there. But those kind of you feel like a big wound after that fight. You feel like everything hurts. You don't want to see a pair of gloves in a while. Even after the fight, he was like, listen, I just need a break. Give me a break, and then I'll talk to you about that. But also on that card, we'll move past this a little bit, because there's some other things I want to talk about that are happening in boxing. The Pitbull Cruz fight. Probably the fight of the year against Fierro. Wow. From opening bell to round 12, they were both busted up. You talk about busted up. They were both busted up. That's a fight that takes a lot out of you. And I did see, in my opinion, Isaac Cruz dropped a little bit. I think this war was one that really is going to take a lot out of him. I don't see him now becoming up. They're talking about him, getting a tank rematch. I don't think so. I think he's actually gone down. What did you think of that fight?
So first and foremost, if there's ever been a time where there was an early fight of the year candidate, we got one the first day of February, because that fight was unbelievable. I thought Angel Fierro made a great account of himself. I wouldn't even been mad at a draw, to be honest with you. He's definitely someone I want to see again. But you're absolutely right. If you look at the totality of that fight, neither one of those guys would be the same. I see a lot of people clamoring for the rematch. Obviously, I'd be all in on seeing it, but do not think you're going to get that same performance, because I don't think either guy would physically be able to give that performance. But I hate to do this, but much like David Morrell, I think he would be better suited at 68. I think Isaac Cruz would be so much better at 135, man. His punches just don't have that same snap that they had at 35 at 40. And he's a little guy. He's fighting up. He takes a hell of a punch still, but I just think he's dependent on accumulation. And when you fight a guy like Fierro, who's not going anywhere, he's going to be in a lot of those kind of fights. And I don't know how many of those he had in him.
And he got rocked a couple times. I've seen him get rocked a couple times. It didn't look like he had the same oomph when he was throwing. He goes incredibly out of shape between fights. That does not bode good for long term for Isaac Cruz to be on that level, because you've got to be on point all the time. I don't like when these fighters go up and down with their weights between fights. No. It's a dedication thing, and I don't know why they get so far out, especially the little guys. But you're saying he takes a good punch. He may have taken one too many in these last 2 fights that I've seen.
It's starting to add up, for sure. It's starting to add up, and that's not even counting the shots he was taking in the Tank fight. I think if you're going by his last 4 fights or so, Rolly is the only fight that he kind of came out clean in. So 3 out of 4, man, that's a brutal beating on your body, especially for a guy so small, especially for a guy that has to navigate so many other different, disadvantages, height, reach, and all that to get to his target. And quite honestly, Fierro made it easy on him because as soon as the fight started, I'm like, why is Buddy dipping down so low? Like he's
Yeah.
literally giving up his height for Pitbull to be right in his wheelhouse.
And even the Ryle fight for Pitbull didn't look good. And I thought, okay,
Terrible.
maybe Ryle's just a guy who moves a lot, but Ryle could bang a little bit too. But this one was one where these guys stood in front of each other from the bell to the end. And I've seen fights like this a few times, and I've always at the end of it, I'm like, that guy might not be the same afterwards. Do you get that same opinion?
Absolutely. It wasn't quite Corrales Castillo, but it was knocking on the
Close.
doorstep.
Yeah.
And when I saw Corrales Castillo, I said, those guys will never be the same. You know it. I mean, I think both of them didn't even have the ability to make the weight anymore. They neither guy looked the same. That was very close to that. And I think Pitbull's toughness is going to be his downfall because he can take a lot to give a lot. But man, I don't like what I don't like I love the fight, don't get me wrong, but I don't like the aftermath of those kind of fights.
Yeah, and you spoke a little bit before about maybe Benavidez taking a intern fight. I want to fast forward a little bit here.
Okay.
Devin Haney is getting ready to fight Ramirez, and Ryan Garcia is getting ready to fight Rolly. Before they fight in a rematch, evidently coming at the end of the year in October. I am not sure Devin Haney gets past Ramirez. And I think Garcia is going to smoke Rolly. I think he is. But I would be very careful. What's that?
We share a brain. Go ahead, man.
I just fear that mentally Haney might not be the same. And if he does, although I think Ramirez is on the back end of his career, this could be one of those trap fights. He loses, it messes up the entire apple cart. Although I do want to see Garcia and Rolly. I really do. I want to see that fight. I think that's going to be a very good fight. The lead up is going to be tremendous. But that fight has to happen next, I think. The only reason why is because I think like Margarito Cotto had to get comeback right away. You need that mentally. And he did, because Margarito cheated. He was like, you know what? I want that comeback right now. And he did, and he got it. So that, I think you need that. I think you need that comeback with the person who beat you, who you allegedly accused of cheating, which he was caught, tested positive. I think mentally that does something for you. Is Devin Haney taking a risk here with this guy? Or do you think it's just pretty much they wouldn't pick this fight if they didn't think something was going on?
So again, this is another conversation I literally just had. I said they did Devin no favors and they did Ryan a ton of favors because I agree with you in the sense of Ryan Rolly's buildup is going to be great. I think Ryan knocks Rolly's head into orbit. I think Rolly's legs are completely shot. One thing the Isak Cruz, in my opinion, fight did to Rolly was his best weapon, which is his power and his awkwardness and his unpredictability, is gone because in his next fight, he was afraid to even throw punches. So I think his punch resistance is terrible. I think his legs are gone. And I think Ryan was like, give me him. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I don't know if they did Devin any favors. Ramirez isn't this, punching machine that he used to be at one point, but he's still a pretty active-fisted guy. He still brings a little mental toughness. And what do we all question about Devin? His mental toughness, his mental fortitude. I think Devin made a mistake basing everything he's doing in his career moving forward around Ryan. Because my thing is, do I really want to base my career? I want to fight Ramirez to get to the Ryan rematch. Do I want to do that with a guy that came in 6 pounds overweight, that tested positive? I think Rolly's a guy that if Ryan came in overweight, he would allow it and fight him anyway. It's a huge payday for him. Do you really want to go down that road again with Ryan? Is Ryan dependable enough to base the next 2 fights in your career around him? I don't know. I don't know. Ryan looks very heavy to me in some of the events I've seen him at. I think Devin could be making a lot of technical errors the way he's moving his career.
Now, let me ask you, because this has been a hot topic. Bill Haney, is he good for Devin right now?
So I would never say a father's not good for a son. I do think in a reduced role, he would be better. I look at it like the Angel Garcia, Danny Garcia. Every time I used to talk to Danny Garcia, he said, "Well, I'm not a big talker, so I let my dad do the talking for me." The problem is, your dad's not the one in there taking punches. Your dad's not the. This is not your dad's career. He can be a part of your career, but this is not his career. It's kind of like what we've seen with, I don't know if you saw the post-fight press conference, but David Morrell and David Benavidez was good. Louis the Cuba Sr. couldn't
Oh,
let it go, man. And it's like,
yeah.
dude, you're not a fighter. If David hit you, you would be on the phone with your attorney. So cut it out. It's the same thing with Bill Haney to a degree. Got his son this far, so I'm not going to say he's not a great father. I'm not going to say he's not a great mentor or whatever for Devin. But at some point, you got to reel it back. I don't even know if he's capable of it. Maybe this is what he thinks is keeping Devin relevant, but I'd rather see his fighting ability keep him relevant over, the things that comes out of his father's mouth.
All right, maybe I put that the wrong way. I'm saying professionally, whether it's choosing the fights, taking him, suing somebody in the fight game. It doesn't make any sense. It makes him look bad. I thought that was a bad look for Devin Haney to sue him for battery in a business that the point is to batter somebody. It doesn't make sense. It makes him look bad, and it kind of lowers his value a little bit. That's what I'm saying. Do you think professionally?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely, because at the end of the day, I think Bill Haney is too involved. He's the trainer, he's the father, he's the manager. He wears a lot of hats when it comes to Devin Haney, and he doesn't always put him in a good light. And unfortunately, Devin doesn't talk enough to even counteract some of the things that Bill does. It almost seems like he's on board with it. I'm sure he is on board with a lot of it. But yeah, the overall grand scheme of things, it hasn't been a good look for the Haneys. And quite honestly, by it being such a bad look outside of the ring, I don't think he can just beat Jose Ramirez. I almost think he has to look very good. I won't say spectacular, but I think he would have to look very good to even have interest in the Ryan rematch, because I think I know what Ryan's going to do to Rolly. The question mark is Devin. So I think Devin needs a new set of eyes in his corner as a trainer. And I definitely think he needs I don't even know if you want to call it a big bro, type guy, whatever slang these young kids using these days. He needs someone other than his father, because Bill's too emotionally and wrapped into Devin, which is his son. I get it, but you got to have balance, and I don't see any balance in that camp.
As the kids would say, that's no cap. I tell you that. No cap. No, but were you around when Tank and Devin fought in that wild thing at Mayweather's? Were you there?
I wasn't in the gym, but I remember hearing about it immediately afterwards.
Because his father, Devin's father, jumped into the ring and was in there, so he is very emotionally involved. And even after that was going on, they let him continue to fight. Probably not the best. I'm looking more professional. Like, okay, you've done your job to get him to here. Let's back off a little bit. Look, I've met Devin. He is a tremendous kid. He is a great. At the time, he had just won the Undisputed Championship. He was getting a haircut in Vegas, and my son was getting a haircut at the same time. And he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I feel almost like he's pushed a little bit too much. And I think this fight, he should have came back with somebody else.
I'll give you one better. I told someone this. If you look at Devin's professional career, Devin really haven't taken a whole lot of damage, but his chin is bad. His punch resistance seems bad. I blame Bill Haney. I might catch some flack for that, but I do, because if I'm going to take my 16-year-old son and put him in with one of the biggest punchers in a gym setting, and I'm betting money, I'm going to bet you money you can't knock my son out. You had Gervonta Davis in there trying to knock your son out. Now, because he didn't accomplish that, don't mean he didn't get the job done. I think those rough sparring sessions that he put Devin in is why Devin's punch resistance is so bad, because he was getting punched by Gervonta Davis as a 16-year-old kid, and not just, hey, spar my son. This is, I got money on you can't knock my son out. So if you look at the shots Gervonta was throwing, that's why he gassed out. He was trying to knock Devin out. That's not a good situation to put your son in. Now, if you flip the coin, Floyd Mayweather Sr. had Floyd Mayweather Jr. sparring Pernell Whitaker, Frankie Randall, amazing fighters at 15, 16 years old. He say, don't hurt my kid. Teach him. That's the difference between Floyd Sr. and Bill Haney.
And they were doghouse rules. when Tank was
You in doghouse, fight to the death, basically. It's like,
that was
pit bull fighting, and that's a no-go for a 16-year-old. That's a no-go for anybody.
I know Dana White said a story about he never said who it was. He was a top 10 ranked heavyweight, was in doghouse rules with Roger, and Roger beat the brakes off of him. He never said who it was. I always wanted to find out who that guy was there at that time. Said a world ranked top 10 heavyweight. You wouldn't have no who it could have been, could you?
You just gave me some homework, though. I'm sure I can figure it out. I can find
top
out.
10 heavyweight. He said Dana White was there, and he said Roger Mayweather. The bell rang, and I was like, no. There's doghouse rules, and Roger beat the brakes off him. I'd be curious to find out who that was.
Yeah, I think I can find out.
Yeah, if you can. So down the road, though, they're announcing here Canelo's going to fight in May, fighting a guy who probably shouldn't be fighting Canelo. And then we're going to turn to October, it looks like, which is the month Canelo always fights. Canelo versus Crawford appears to be on the horizon here. Is there a chance Crawford pulls this off?
I think it would be September, October. I know you.
September. October is Haney.
Yes. Okay. Pull it off. It's hard to doubt Bud Crawford, but here's where I'll go with it. Given what I saw in the Madrimov fight, I think going to 168 and fighting Canelo is a mistake. It's a mistake physically and career-wise. Financially, is genius because, quite honestly, Bud will probably announce his retirement in the ring after the fight. He's made it clear, and quite honestly, if Turkey wouldn't have came with all this money, I don't even know if he fights Madrimov at 154. He kind of made it clear it was Canelo or bust immediately after the Errol Spence victory. So I think money lured him back. He's going for the biggest prize in the game, which is Canelo Alvarez. Can't be mad at that at all. In terms of the fight, I just think too big, too strong, too crafty. I think people are giving Canelo this. They're putting him in this box of he's just big and strong. Can Bud take what he's giving out? But Canelo's a smart fighter. Canelo's a good counterpuncher. Canelo can fight well going backwards. Not saying Bud can't do all those things, but when you factor in size, if I'm going to have him even in every other category, when you factor in size and Bud never fought at 60, let alone 68. And then Bud didn't look tremendous in his long fight at 154. I think we'll learn more February 22nd when we see what Madrimov looks like against Virgil Ortiz. That'll tell us a little something, but either Madrimov's very good or Bud just doesn't belong in those upper echelon weight classes. And that can be a thing. I mean, he's stopped everyone he's ever fought at 147. And then he goes to 154, and he's in a little bit of a dogfight. So I think the weight, the ramifications, if they fight in September, Bud will be a month away from his 38th birthday. Bud is very inactive. I mean, there's just little intricate factors that people aren't factoring in and just looking at the fights. But believe it or not, in the last 3 or 4 years, Canelo's probably been one of the more active fighters. Canelo, I believe, is 34 years old. A lot of mileage, I get it, 65 or so fights. But Bud is 37. Bud's only fought once since the Spence win, which I never thought that would happen. I thought he was on a victory lap. I thought he was going to make the rounds. Mm-hmm. He's fought once since the Spence win, which was July of 23. So 23. Inactivity, age, giving up a ton of size. I'm not saying he's Jermell Charlo, but we have read this book before. Of a guy that was a career 54-pounder going up to 68. And what did Charlo say immediately after the fight? Man, I was 164 in my hotel room this month. I think same book, different title, man.
So overall, let me wrap with this. At the end of this career of Canelo, after this happens, after those fights. Oh, you know what? Let me do this first. You mentioned Virgil Ortiz, Israel Madrimov. That's a great fight on that show, February 22nd.
That card is unbelievable. That is an amazing fight. Shakur Stevenson versus Floyd Schofield.
I like that fight.
Is an intriguing fight. Bivol going right back into a rematch. That card is amazing. Not to mention we have Joseph Parker and
Daniel
Dubois on that card. Like, unbelievable event. This is one of the positives about Turkey because Turkey can afford to put all those guys on one card to where usually you know how it is, GZ. It's a top heavy card. We pay the
Yeah.
top guys on the card the big money, so the card kind of falters. This is the beauty of Turkey. He can literally put 6 all-star fights on one card.
But the downside here is, from what I heard, now I know factually this one. I know Turkey's lost tens of millions in the LA card that he did with Terrence Crawford. I know that factually. He's actually pulling back a little bit. So now that you're pulling back a little bit, he must know, and what happens if the government just decides, we're going to Formula One instead of boxing, because they jumped into boxing, they jumped into golf, they jumped into this. What happens if they jumped into those things? You know what I mean?
Well, I think we kind of said it on your show, GZ. This is short-lived. I think you and I both knew this was short-lived, because the thing about boxing is this. If you're a boxing fan like Turkey, the lure is amazing. Oh, man, I got a ton of money. I'm going to get into a sport that I'm a fan of. And then you realize the kickback ain't that great. Mm-hmm. So I remember when he first got involved, you and I had a conversation. I said, man, look, get it while the getting's good, because I just don't see a guy this business savvy, this smart, who's used to making money, continuously losing money because he's a fan of the sport. And I think that's where we're at now.
In a business mind, you look at Facebook and Instagram and like YouTube ads, right? Mm-hmm. If you would have told me 5 years ago that they would be 10 cents an ad, I would have been like, what? Oh my God, jump all over it. Now it's starting to fade away because Facebook's like, we got to make money off of this. Yes. YouTube's got to make money off of this. And now it's starting to so slowly but surely rise. It's becoming unaffordable and unobtainable or unsustainable for Facebook, Meta, and all these companies to say, we can't give these things away for free. Let's get out of that business. Do something else. Doesn't make sense.
I think the same thing. And I had this discussion with a buddy of mine. He's under the impression of it's Amazon Prime, whether they have boxing on there or not. You could just throw it on there and they don't care. I'm like, yeah, but they're trying to sell $80 pay-per-views. People think because there's money attached or there's a big lump sum of money that these people don't care about losing money. And that's just not factual. Boxing is a niche sport. Netflix, Amazon Prime, all these companies would be perfectly fine without boxing. Right. So when they put boxing on, yeah, it's a great thing. But look at the numbers from Tyson Paul. Netflix hasn't touched boxing since. And they did great numbers. Because boxing is a niche sport. You don't need it. You only have a small group of fans. And when you could sell a fight like Paul Tyson over a real fight, what's the point of investing in the sport? How many of those fights you can actually do? So I think Amazon Prime, in my opinion, this is Al Heyman's last ditch effort in boxing, because the well's running dry. We're losing networks. I think Amazon Prime is on a limited basis. I think Turkey's going to be on a limited basis before eventually they all completely withdraw. And it's unfortunate because we have lost HBO, Showtime, and from what I think Teal and some of those guys have leaked, ESPN is not renewing Top Rank.
Yeah, ESPN, they're gone in August. They're gone in August.
It's unbelievable. So as much as this streaming shit seems great, we need networks in boxing, because when those guys withdraw, what are we going to fall back on?
And it's not such it's a hard sell when the fighters don't sell it. The fighters got to sell it. Like, we don't have a Floyd Mayweather floating around here. We don't have a Tyson.
I think social media is the gateway to everything, and it's not. If you have 20,000 social media followers, 7,000 of them may be active. So although the number looks big, it's really not. So you have to find other innovative ways to create a buzz. And fortunately for them, it's all in the palm of their hand. You just got to do it, use it, be smart with it. And we just don't get that. And then we get a lot of guys that, won't fight each other. That seems to be one bridge that Turkey's trying to gap. But I don't know, man. Boxing has always gotten it in its own way. We've had a few lifelines thrown our way. I just don't know if that's sustainable, like you said.
Yeah, I don't think Turkey's in this for the long term. I think he bought Ring Magazine, not that expensively, but it's more of a power thing for him. That's the only wealth. His personal wealth is only invested in the Ring Magazine. It's not invested in his shows. The government puts those shows on. He's got the bankroll. I could do that from here.
Absolutely.
If you gave me that kind of money. If the United States government said, George, you match make. I'd put on the best matches possible.
Of
I'd be
course.
handing out cash.
Give me
I'd
an
give you
unlimited
cash.
supply of money and tell me to make the fights you want to see as a fan. And that's
Yeah.
what it is. You can see Turkey always want that picture with the fighter doing it. He's a fan who's
I
given
know.
a ton of money to be in the sport, but it's not sustainable when it's not bringing in the type of revenue you thought. And these fighters overvalue themselves. Bob Arum has told us that. The PBC side has told us that. Turkey's just kind of living in the moment, but he'll see soon.
And you know what? So what I don't like much, the fighters will switch it as we need to make our money to do whatever. They take the football analogy. I'm not in this long, right? But there isn't hundreds of millions of dollars every weekend being spent on in sport. It's not. So they you are 100% right. They overvalue themselves because boxing used to be a necessity, a sport out of necessity. Now it's you make 25 mil, I'll see you in a year and a half. They're not on Dancing with the Stars or like used to be Johnny Carson or, oh boy, am I dating myself? Jay Leno or David Leno. You know what I mean? I could on a Friday or Tuesday night when I was watching my grandmother sitting there watching the Johnny Carson show, I would see the heavyweight champ of the world. I'd see Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson. You don't see that anymore. That is a big problem. And the other fact is they don't do a lot of media either. They don't.
They don't do a lot of media. And think of this, GZ. I love Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman hasn't fought in 3 years. And then he announces a fight and wants everyone to be like, oh my God, one time is back. This is what have you done for me lately, sport. I hate to say Keith Thurman is almost forgotten, but when he made the announcement, I don't think it got the pop he thought it was going to get. This is not like The Rock coming back and a WWE event or The Undertaker making an appearance. When you see someone like Keith Thurman say that, you almost get the who cares from the fan base, as opposed to like, oh my God, it's The Rock. So I think, and that goes with the overvaluing themselves. It's like I can disappear for 3 years, come back, announce I'm fighting in Australia, and people are just going to go berserk. And that didn't happen. And it's sad and it's unfortunate, but it's like, dude, you haven't fought in 3 years. And prior to the 3 years, you had fought once in 2 years. And I don't know, man. The inactivity will be the death of this sport. And I mean that metaphorically. Boxing will never die, but the inactivity will be the death of this sport. Jermell Charlo got his biggest fight against Canelo in May of 23. We haven't even heard from Jermell Charlo since that fight.
Only negative.
I don't understand it. I truly don't. I don't understand how you get your first loss or your second loss and you're just stewing it for a year and a half to 2 years. I don't know, man.
This would be my message to the fighters. Turki Al-Sheikh is like that guy that goes to all those Comic-Cons to see all those people to get autographs. But after a while, you grow out of it.
Yes.
Get it while you can. He'll give you the $1 million for your autograph and your picture and that. He's going to get out of it quicker than you guys think. And then you're really going to. And I bet you if Dana White got involved in it, if Dana White did, and there's rumblings that he's going to get involved in it, you're going to see the fighter pay go down where it should be, and he'd run it like a business. That's my thoughts.
Well, it's like you said, the Comic-Con. Once the man cave is filled with all these autographs, and you look around and you say, "What am I going to do with all this shit?" You stop going. You stop paying $50,000 for a signature on a piece of paper. And I think this is fun for Turkey right now, but there comes a time where it's not going to be fun. And I think it's going to be like that for him to bow out of it.
Well, I'm going to wrap up with this. What I was going to say there before I got back on that Ortiz route. Canelo, if he wraps up this year, let's just say he wraps up this year and he's done with it. I heard Jim Lampley talking to me about Eric Morales at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. And he said that he had sat with him and he said, Canelo may be the greatest Mexican fighter if you look at his resume top to bottom. Would you agree with that?
I can't be mad at it. I can't be mad at it at all because.
And that's coming from Eric Morales. He's from Tijuana.
From a Mexican boxing legend. And my thing is this. As much as Julio Cesar Chavez is revered, I think we can all agree that he has a shaky resume. He has losses to Frankie Randall gave him his first loss. That was a guy he was probably 20-1 betting favorite on. If you look at Canelo's losses, he's probably lost to everyone he was supposed to lose to. Or at the very least, you thought they had a chance. So there's no surprise losses on his resume. he probably has 5 famous, 3 possibles. That's how we're playing spades and shit. But like he probably has 5 and 3 possibles because there's 2 or 3 guys on his resume that could easily sneak into the Hall of Fame at some point. So from a resume standpoint, I'm not mad at Eric Morales' take. I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, and of course people are going to bring in Juan Manuel Marquez and things like that. To me, Marquez kind of got hot late in his career. Canelo's been that guy for 8 years, G? I mean, it's been a long run, and I love his activity. I love the fact that he, with the exception of Benavidez, if you want to say he ducked it or whatever, he's pretty much been on par with fighting Shane Mosley, Floyd Mayweather, Landy Lauer when no one wanted to fight him, Austin Trout, another tricky southpaw when no one wanted to fight him. He fought guys that he probably could have stayed away from. He ran to him. So I'm not mad at the El Tigre Blaze take at all because I love Chavez, but Chavez got a lot of. Chavez has weird, like you'll go down like 40 fights in his career, and there's like a 3-15 guys. Like, how do you fight this guy? So, look, no disrespect to the legend, Chavez is the man, and I loved his fighting style, but I'm not mad at that take at all because Canelo has been that guy for a long time.
Well, Percy, it's been a bit, but what a better time to get going, meeting up on a regular basis than this time. It's been things are starting to heat up here. And as always, it's good to have you on. Where can they get you? Where can they find you?
So the VIP Crew YouTube page is up and running. The website will be done probably in the next week or two. And then we're going to really rev it up. So the website is almost complete. I saw the design. I love it. The website will go up in a week or two, and then we're going to rev some things up. Before I go, man, when I first did your show, GZ, I think the first episode, I shouted out my man Troy Bodine, who was battling pancreatic cancer. That man is still battling pancreatic cancer. So I wear this thing for him, man. It was looking grim a couple of days ago, and he continues to defy the odds. So we saw great fights last night. We're fight fans. He's a fighter, and he's an inspiration to me because there's nothing I can give up on after watching his battle. So salute to you, Troy Bodine, and you know, anything that you guys need, the Bodine family, I'm here for you.
Wow. Well, if we can, are they doing a GoFundMe page or anything else like that? Or can you buy the wristbands?
Yeah, I think they do have the wristbands for sale. I'll get a link to that.
Get that.
That's a good thought, man. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get that out there. I have someone who's a very good friend of ours coming on the show tomorrow, battling stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. She'd had it, and she's my age and has 3 children. Wow. Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable sickness. It's crazy. You know, we sit here, talk fights, and you know, like this, you know, our lives are good, and here you are. These are the real fighters here.
The real fighters.
Battling this, and
there's no purses attached to these fights. There's no money. They're just fighting, man, just because there's something to live for, you know. Yeah.
Well, Big P, Percy Crawford, it's always good to have you on, and you'll be coming on more frequently now. I could see it now. I got more time now. I can tell you that.
I have more time now. I love being on, man, and I love your pivot of pivoting out of just the combat sports, man. I love looking at you venture into other things.
And we're going to do that too with you as well. If you'd be honored to have me on, I'd like you to come on too. And I think we could do something a little different too.
Absolutely, man. Anything you need, brother.
Thank you, big guy.
Thank you, man.
Thanks, Percy.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.